Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today is February 9th. Bobby Witt Jr. signs an extension. Jose Altuve signs an extension. Kershaw back with the Dodgers, plus a lot more. Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. My name is Steven. This is the middle of the order. How are we doing today, ladies and gentlemen? We've got some fun stuff to talk about, some two big extensions for two teams. Altuve's. The Houston Astros and Altuve get an extension done. Bobby Witt Jr., he signs a mega deal with the Royals. We got a few other signings, as well as Kershaw rejoined the Dodgers. I talked about that a couple episodes ago, last episode, when they re-signed, well, not when they re-signed Paxton, but when they signed James Paxton to a deal, how I found it unlikely for the Dodgers to go out and sign Kershaw, and yet they do. We'll talk about that a little bit later. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe. We've been doing once-a-week episodes for now, but we're about to start revving things up as we enter spring training baseball, which is, might I say, less than 2 weeks away now. Like, we are upon baseball. We got less than 50 days. I'm very excited. Working on some episodes for, what to expect from your team from this season. So those will be rolling around the corner, as well as a prediction episode coming just before the season gets underway. So we just have a couple more little off-season episodes to get through. So let's get through them. Let's dive on into today's episode and start talking about the news and the signings. All right, now let's get into it. Talk about the first bit of news, and that is Bobby Witt Jr. He is signing a huge contract extension with the Kansas City Royals for 11 years, $288 million. Now let's preference this, that Bobby Witt, apparently, he has opt-outs after his 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th year. So in those last 4 years, he has options to leave whenever he wants. So it'll be interesting to see the contract structure of the $288 million. Are they going to front load it, back load it, etc.? And then to preference as well, the club, Kansas City Royals, they have a option on the 11th year that if they take it, that tacks on 3 more years and $89 million. So if they do take that club option on that 11th year, the 11-year, $288 million contract turns into a 14-year, $377 million contract. Bobby Witt Jr., the future of the Kansas City Royals, the shortstop there, debuted 2 years ago in 2022 at the age of 22 and had an amazing first year in the big leagues. Finished 4th in Rookie of the Year voting, stole 30 bags, hit 20 home runs to an OPS of 722. Last year, he got better, led the league in triples with 11, had a 30-30 season for the shortstop position there, 30 home runs and 49 stolen bases, 96 ribbies. Has had a batting average of 276 and an OPS of 813. He is the best player on the Kansas City Royals, and it looks like he will be for a long time. One thing I saw for some people friends of mine, that they were discussing is what's the point for Bobby Witt to sign the extension. The whole point is winning. The Royals probably aren't winning. And to be fair, and to say yes, they aren't, they probably are not winning yet. I want to preference is that I think the Royals could be not a sneaky good team this year, but they could surprise some people with how well they actually end up playing. I think they're going to come at least 4th, if not 3rd in the division, and anything higher than that would be quite the surprise. Of course, they have some names that you do know. For example, Bobby Witt Jr. may be the best Kansas City Royal, but the most notable one is Salvador Perez, still from that 2015 championship run. He's the catcher for now. Other guys they have in that lineup, MJ Melendez and Vinny Pasquantino, Michael Massey, Kyle Isbell, and of course they signed Hunter Renfroe. They also signed Adam Frazier and Garrett Hampson, two guys who may turn out to be valuable there. Backup catcher Freddie Fermin has also played a interesting role there. The pitching staff is also interesting. Cole Reagans came over in the trade from Texas last year and put on a clinic in the Royals uniform. They just signed a couple of Padres this year in December, this offseason, Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo. Of course, Brady Singer is still there, as well as Jordan Lyles. And the bullpen, they've made some additions to that during this offseason as well. Matt Sawyer from the Rule 5 draft from the Yankees, Chris Stratton, Nick Anderson, and Will Smith have all been signed as well to go along with the guys they've already had there, like Carlos Hernandez and James MacArthur. They've got guys like Kyle Wright from the trade with the Braves this offseason, as well as Chris Bubich, who is currently on the IL. And they have some notable names in their farm system, such as Blake Mitchell, who's supposed to be the next catcher, next star catcher, if they can. He was ranked second in the organization's prospect rank. They have a first-round pick in Asa Lacy, as well as some other starting pitching depth as well there. So the Royals are slowly getting there where they could be an interesting team. If you think the Royals are going to be not good, this whole 11-year tenure with the Bobby Witt Jr. that he just signed, you're ridiculous. I think the Royals could be good in the next 3-4 years fighting for that division. I said this in the previous episode as well. You know, the Twins and the Guardians right now are kind of stalling out. The Twins are good by default when you look at it, and Fangraphs has them winning 87 games, which, I mean, is fair, but you also think they play most of those games against teams like the White Sox, the Royals, the Guardians, the Tigers. So, be up on your division. All you have to do is be the best in your division in that AL Central, because I'll tell you right now, all 5 of these teams lose to most of the AL East and half of the AL West. So, it really comes down to those outer league games that will make or break this division, as well as, the games they play against each other, obviously, because that's how it works. But yeah, I like the Royals team. It's starting to shape up nicely. Obviously, there's some, guys there that you wish, you could have a little bit of a jump towards. Kyle Isbell in center field is, an okay option, but of course they have Drew Waters in the farm system as well, coming over from a Braves trade a couple years ago, so maybe he can amount to something this year finally as well. But overall, Bobby Witt Jr. is essentially the next best shortstop in the game. I can't think of a young shortstop, his age, like the next 22-year-old, like star shortstop. Obviously, Jackson Holliday with Baltimore is supposed to be a huge one. And obviously, there's some guys who've been in the league for a couple more years than Bobby Witt now has. Bobby Witt Jr. has been then, such as Bo Bichette. But yeah, Bobby Witt Jr. is a star player. He's the best player on the Royals. And for Kansas City, they're talking about getting a new stadium in the next couple of years. Bobby Witt's going to be the face of that stadium. And, in 2 years, he's amounted 5.3 WAR. He already has 50 home runs, 265 batting average, and nearly 80 stolen bases, one away from that. I think he's a very good player. He finished 7th in MVP voting this year, much if I mentioned that already. And he's only going to get better. Only at the age of 23, he's entering his age 24 season, his 3rd year in the big leagues. And I expect it to just, each year he plays right now, he's just getting better and better. Expect that from Bobby Witt. I think it's a good signing for the Royals, a good, extension for the Royals. And I think it plays out really nicely for both partners. I don't know how the extensions are going to go, or the options. I could see Bobby Witt, taking one of his opt-outs if he, declines, if he's playing better than the money's offering. He could definitely end up taking one of those 4 options toward the end of the contract. And hey, if he really is the next, superstar player in the league, wins an MVP maybe, the Royals would definitely tack on those 3 years, I think, if they get to the end of that contract and he's not, hasn't fallen off a carriage essentially. But we'll have to see when we get closer and closer to those deals. We'll have to wait until 2030 for Bobby Witt to have his first chance to opt out of his massive new deal. So good for Bobby, and hopefully the Royals can get an identity real soon. Moving along now, not the only extension we have to talk about, because Jose Altuve is signing a 5-year contract extension worth $125 million. Good for Altuve, man. He has deserved it. Allegations aside, he is the best second baseman of this generation. I've never seen a better player in my lifetime than at second base than Jose Altuve. Going over all of his accolades really quickly, he is an ALCS MVP. He is an MVP 2017. Yes, controversial, but we're throwing it out the window for now. He's an 8-time All-Star, 2 times World Series winner, a 6-time Silver Slugger, a Gold Glove winner, 3-time batting title, and he has had quite the career, making his debut in 2011 at the small age of 21, and here he is entering his 14th year in the league in his age 34 season, signing a 5-year deal. Fun fact, Altuve is the first second baseman in MLB history to amass $300 million in his career, total-wise. And obviously he was expected to be a free agent after the 2024 season. But with this 5-year deal, he is locked up, most likely for an Astro for life. He'll be about 38, 39 when the contract is expired and done. Last year, tough year for Altuve. He was banged up a little bit at the beginning of the season and got banged up towards the end of the season as well, only playing in 90 games, the lowest amount of games he's ever played in his career, excluding his debut year in 2011 when he first got called up in the middle of the season, and COVID year in 2020 where he only played 48 of the 60 games. Outside of those 3 years, last year, first year, and COVID year, he's played over 130 games pretty much every other year, every single year. But last year, of course, banged up with some injuries, but still had some very good numbers when healthy. A .915 OPS, 17 home runs, and 51 RBIs, and 14 stolen bases, 112 hits. I mean, this guy hits, man. From 2014 to 2017, he led the league in hits each of those years: 225, 200, 216, and 204. That 2014, yeah, he's had up to 58 stolen bases. Obviously, much older, not the same speed he once had, but the same kind of hitting core. 2022, he was an all-star, finished 5th in MVP voting, won a Silver Slugger, had an OPS of 921. Year before that, in 2021, he had an OPS of 839, finished 18th in MVP voting. But besides the point, Altuve, very good. And obviously he's been an Astro his whole career, and with this contract, I expect that he will be an Astro for the rest of his career. I don't know if he retires after this 5-year career, or if he has another 1-2 years here. Maybe he does sign with another team, but I think he wants to stay with Houston. I think I read something that the Houston mayor is officially making February 7th, which was 2 days ago, National Jose Altuve Day, 27 being 27, Altuve's number. So yeah, that's always obviously a great thing for a player to have, for a city, for a country, fan base, whatever it is. It's great for Altuve, very happy for him, and those 5 years will tack on to the end of this contract, which obviously ends this year. And if you're an Astros fan, this is great for you because you love your hometown guy. But you also have to wonder who's the next, extension, because the whole time this offseason we've been talking about Altuve and this is the key one, I guess, Alex Bregman, who is also a free agent after the 2024 season. They would love to get a deal done with Bregman as well. but it is not a guaranteed. It is likely that Bregman could be hitting to free agent next year as a top third baseman. This guy knows what he's doing. He's great at, a great bat, great defense as well. So expect him to get a bag. And obviously, Astro fans would love to re-sign him as well. But no guarantees right now. But you do have Altuve, who is locked up for another 5 years. Good for Altuve, for us to amass that $300 million, like I said. And he's earned it. Like I said, allegations aside, this guy is a hitter. He's a ball player at heart, and he is a good one at that. The Dodgers now keep adding and adding and adding, and they're bringing back Kershaw on an undisclosed contract. I saw a lot of things saying it's going to be a 1-year deal, but I also saw a couple saying it is a 2-year deal. So we have no confirmation on the years, we have no confirmation on the money, but we do pretty much have confirmation that he is returning to the Dodgers. And he's been there since he was a young boy, age 20, making his debut in 2008, all the way up now to what will be his 17th year in the big leagues. An MVP, a triple crown winner, 3-time Cy Young, 10 times All-Star, Gold Glover, 2020 World Series, and a 5-time ERA title champ from 2011 to 2014, where he was a Triple Crown winner, Cy Young winner, and his MVP year, which is rare to come by if you are a pitcher not named Ohtani. Had a 1.77 ERA that year. But low ERAs have been a thing for Kershaw. Outside his debut year in 2008, where in 22 games he pitched to a 4.26 ERA, Kershaw has never gotten past that 4 mark again. The only 2 years that he had an ERA higher than 3 was in 2019 when he had a 3.03, and then 2021 where he had a 3.55. So yeah, those are 2 more recent years. But the last 2 years, in 2022 and 2023, he's been same old Kershaw. 22 starts in 2022 to a 2.28 ERA. And in 24 starts last year, a 2.46 ERA. With 137 strikeouts, both those years he was an all-star. So despite being 36 years of age very soon, he still has some juice in the tank and can still be a great pitcher on any team. He just happens to be choosing the Dodgers for his career here. Of course, it's important to note that he did get shoulder surgery in this offseason, so he'll be missing some time at the beginning of the year. I think right now they kind of want to start him around June, July, so about middle of the season for Kershaw's return. But I don't think the Dodgers are too worried about that, especially when you have a surplus, and I mean surplus, of pitching. To look at the depth, and we'll talk just as a whole right now for this year. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, they signed him. Tyler Glasnow, they traded for. Bobby Miller, Walker Buehler, James Paxton, Emmett Sheehan, Clayton Kershaw, Gavin Stone, Ryan Yarbrough, all viable starter options, essentially. And that is not to mention Tony Gonsolin and Dustin May, who are both on the IL, as well as Shohei Ohtani, who is a pitcher, but he had shoulder surgery as well. He is not pitching this year. Dustin May, if he returns this year, it'd be towards the end late. Tony Gonsolin, I think, is out for the year. So, those guys technically don't count. The Dodgers have a surplus of pitching. If injuries happen to come up for them, they have plenty of guys that they can go to back it up in the meantime. But Kershaw is very good. I expect him to be, starting somewhere when he gets back into everyday field of play when he's pitching. But yeah, he is a star player, future Hall of Famer, probably first rounder. When you think of the game's best starting pitchers over the last decade, the real 3 guys that come to mind, or at least for me, Clayton Kershaw, Justin Verlander, and Max Scherzer. And to think, if he happened to sign with the Texas Rangers, all three of them would have been on the Texas Rangers, and all three of them would be on the IL to start the season. The Texas Rangers had a chance to do something so amazing. I didn't even realize it. That's actually not true. Justin Verlander is on the Astros. I'm thinking of Jacob deGrom. That's a brain fart on my part, but still, a rotation of deGrom, Kershaw, and Scherzer would have been crazy. The Mets had Scherzer and Verlander last year. They ended up trading them both away. That is not the point of this. I got off rails there. Overall, obviously you have to see what the deal ends up being like for Kershaw. But obviously it's a win for the Dodgers, win for Dodger fans. They get their guy back. They're very excited, and obviously Kershaw loves it there. And he is still, like I said, a good pitcher. 2.2 something ERAs, 2.246, nope, 2.46 ERAs is the numbers I'm looking for. It's still a good number for an ERA for a guy who's entering his age 36 season. So Kershaw can still twirl it, and I expect him to, be a part of that Dodgers rotation when he is back and healthy come, June, July. Moving along now, the Brewers are making some additions to their team as they sign a couple of veterans. Jacob Junis, a 1-year, $7 million deal. Gary Sanchez, a 1-year, $7 million deal. Let's start with Gary here. I find this one a little bit more interesting because I believe Gary Sanchez will be DHing with the Brewers because they have William Contreras behind the dish. Gary Sanchez, of course, known for his time with the Yankees, finished second in Rookie of the Year voting in 2016. Was a Silver Slugger and an All-Star in 2017, as well as an All-Star in 2019. And then from COVID till now, he has kind of fallen off the rails. The Yankees ended up letting him go to Minnesota in 2022, where he was not the same. And then last year, he started off with some time in New York for only 3 games, where he had 1 hit and struck out 3 times. Before they sent him to San Diego, which is where Gary Sanchez, Mr. Scary Gary, kind of found some form again for the first time since 2019. He looked good. He was specifically catching for Blake Snell. And before we go any further, no, that does not mean Blake Snell is signing with the Brewers, unless that actually happens, in which case I'd be shocked. But Gary, in 72 games with the Padres, ended up getting 51 hits, 19 of those being big flies, which is what he does best, 46 RBIs, a batting average of a low 218, but his OPS was still high with 792, had 500 slugging. This guy rakes, picked up 33 runs as well. Not the fastest guy on the team, probably one of the slower ones. And, when he is catching, his defense can be a little shaky at times, but does have a strong arm. But he is in there for his bat, which is why I think the DH makes a lot of sense for the Brewers. And I don't hate this move for them. I think they have to kind of restructure a team. And we've talked about the Brewers being very weak in the past. And, going out for this kind of power move makes sense, I would say. He only struck out 64 times with the Padres as well. Big thing to mention there because he used to get very high strikeout numbers. I expect him to, be in there for the left-handers for sure, possibly a couple right-handers. And, obviously people and fans of Gary Sanchez hope to continue to find himself to kind of regain some of that all-star form that he's had in his career. He's had a pretty nice career, considering his recent struggles and recent down years. So we'll see what his time in Milwaukee can say about that. And then Jacob Junis, what a career he's had. And I say veteran, but he's actually on the younger side as well, debuting in 2017 with the Royals. 5 seasons there before spending the last 2 with the Giants in 2022 and 2023. Last year, he played in 40 games for the Giants and started 4 of them. Ended up with a 3.87 ERA, a 4-3 win-loss record. picked up a save, pitched 86 innings, where he picked up 96 strikeouts. So, a nice arm there. Obviously, the Brewers have lost a lot of starting pitching, and, although he's done a lot of starting in the past, specifically with the Royals, it'll be interesting to see kind of how he gets used. Last year's ERA of 3.87, it was the lowest in his now 7-year career. All 6 years prior to that have been 4s or higher, the lowest being 4.3, which was in his first year in the big leagues. So, his strongest year came from the bullpen. Yes, he did make 4 starts. And yes, the Brewers lost a lot of starting pitching, but if I was the Brewers, I would be using Jacob Junis out of the bullpen. It's definitely where he gets his best work in, and I think that's where he would be most effective. But of course, like I said, they do need some starters, so we'll see what they end up doing. Regardless, the move is nice. For $7 million, it might be a little high for a reliever. $7 million for 1 year. I think they're going to try to put him in a starting position role. I think that's going to backfire on the Brewers, but we'll have to wait and see. The Gary Sanchez move, I think I like a little bit more than the Junis move, but both are nice additions to that Milwaukee team. Gary Sanchez adding that pop and a little bit of backup security catcher-wise for William Contreras when he needs an off day. And Jacob Junis, like I said, for the bullpen, could be a nice 7-inning guy, maybe even an 8th-inning setup guy for Devin Williams. But if they try to use him as a starter, that's where my fears would come into play if you are a Brewers fan. All right, now we had a couple of interesting trades that happened in the past week. Nothing too noteworthy, but I'll talk about a couple of the guys here really quickly. Starting off, we have Ross Stripling. He is heading from the Giants to the Oakland A's with some cash considerations in exchange for Jonah Cox, an outfielder heading over to San Francisco. Jonah Cox, a prospect, not going to touch upon that. Money is money, don't need to talk about that. We'll talk about Ross Stripling quickly, and the one thing I'll say, it was very funny to see all the memes about him retiring once he found out the news that he was traded. Obviously not the case. Most of his time spent in the league was with the Dodgers when he debuted in 2016. His one and only All-Star year was in 2018 with the Dodgers. During the COVID year, he got traded to Toronto, where he spent the rest of that year, as well as 2 others, with the Blue Jays before signing a deal with the Giants. And in his 1 year with San Francisco, it didn't go too well. Pitched to a 5.36 ERA, was 0-5 in the win-loss category, played in 22 games, 11 of which were starting. The other 11 was from the bullpen. Touched a total of 89 innings with 70 strikeouts, 20 home runs, 53 earned runs. So kind of a tough year for Ross Stripling after a very nice 2022 with the Blue Jays, where he was 10-4 with a 3.01 ERA and made all 32, not all 32 starts. He played in 32 games, made 24 starts, pitched 134 innings with 111 strikeouts. He was never really known for pitching, fully strikeouts. Stripling's always been a weird guy because, it seems like he does a lot of starting, but also when you look at the numbers, he does a lot of relief appearances as well. So overall, I think he'll be, nice for Oakland. I think he'll be one of the only main notable guys that you might know from the Oakland Athletics entering the 2024 season. I've always liked Ross Stripling. Chicken Strips is one of his nicknames. Hopefully things work out for him and he has a nice little bounce back with the Oakland A's. Moving on, we have the Mariners. Mariners caught up in another trade. Who would have thunk? They're getting Gregory Santos, a pitcher from the White Sox, in exchange for a couple prospects, Prelander Barrero and Zach DeLoach, hopefully I pronounced those correctly, as well as a 2024 draft pick. Gregory Santos, been in the league only 2 years, or 3 years, I guess, but hasn't done much. 2021 and 2022 with the Giants. In total, in those 2 years, the Giants played 5 games into an 11.12 ERA. Very yikes. But last year, with the White Sox, he played in 60 games out of the bullpen to a 3.39 ERA, had a 2-2 record. Had 5 saves and was pretty good and solid overall. Like I said, 60 games, 66.1 innings, and 66 strikeouts. So that's a lot of sixes in that stat line there. Are you sure you want this guy? Seattle. Seems like trouble. But yes, in his first full season, kind of, actually playing baseball and pitching and not just, 5 starts here and there. Had a very nice career. A very nice year with the White Sox, and Seattle obviously needing some relief pitcher help, goes out, makes a trade. So Gregory Santos, congratulations, you are a Seattle Mariner. Next up on the trade docket, I was going to say deadline, Dominic Fletcher. He is heading to the White Sox in exchange for Christian Mena, a right-handed pitcher prospect. From the White Sox organization, heading to Arizona. Dominic Fletcher, I kind of like this move for Arizona, and that's because they have a surplus of outfielders. Corbin Carroll, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Jake McCarthy, Alek Thomas are the 4 guys that come to mind. Dominic Fletcher was a guy that came up towards the end of the season, age 25, made his debut this year. And he was pretty solid overall. In 28 games, he had 94 at-bats, 28 hits, 5 doubles, a triple, a home run, 2 home runs, actually, 14 ribbies, 7 walks, 22 strikeouts. So in total, a 301 batting average and a 791 OPS. Good numbers, but obviously you have Alek Thomas, Lourdes Gurriel, Corbin Carroll, etc. There's no need for Dominic Fletcher, so Arizona says, White Sox, you can have him. We'll take a prospect. So they are getting Christian Mena, a right-handed pitcher in that deal. And then the last trade to happen, to talk about, we got the Yankees and the Dodgers in another mix. I feel like they've already made a couple trades this offseason. The Yankees are getting Major Leaguer Caleb Ferguson. In exchange, they are sending Matt Gage, a left-handed pitcher, and then Jurison Alejandro, a right-handed pitcher, to the Dodgers. And Caleb Ferguson has been very good. Spent his entire career with the Dodgers, be it a short career because he is a younger guy. Debuted in 2018 at the age of 21. Has played every year except for 2021. I believe he was dealing with an injury that year and did not play. Last year, at his age 26 season in 2023, he played 68 games for the Dodgers, 7 of which as a starter. Finished with a 7-4 record in the win-loss department, a 3.43 ERA. The lefty was good, 60 1/3 innings, 70 strikeouts, only 4 home runs given up, 23 earned runs. For a left-handed pitcher, those are good numbers. That's someone that you kind of want on your team. So he will have to shave his beard as he heads over to New York. And hopefully the 2 guys that the Dodgers get work out for them. Matt Gage sounds a little familiar here. Maybe I should have looked him up too here. Let's see what comes up. Matt Gage, he was with the Blue Jays in 2022 and the Astros last year in 2023. Not sure how he ended up on New York, but in total, in his 2 years there, at the age of 29 and 30, he has played 16 games to a 1.83 ERA. So, maybe there's something there as he gets to his, enters his 30s. Baseball Reference projections have him at 3.9 ERA, 30 innings pitched with the Dodgers. So we'll have to see what they do there, but just means more pitching for the Dodgers to worry about. But the Yankees get Caleb Ferguson. Those are the 4 trades that happened. I like Dominic Fletcher the most to the White Sox. I think the White Sox are, trying to salvage a decent year for some of these guys. If Gregory Santos can repeat his, the year that he had this year, the Mariners, I think, are big winners here. Then Caleb Ferguson, same thing with him. If they get the best out of that, the Yankees will be very happy with that. All right, now let's talk about some of the pitchers that signed. We'll do it the same way, kind of talk about guys here briefly. And since we were just talking about the Dodgers, might as well mention that they're re-signing Ryan Brazier and start there. He re-signs with the Dodgers on a 2-year, $9 million deal, so 4.5 for the 2 years. Brazier was very good with Boston, which is why the Dodgers traded for him last year, as they got him in during the deadline. Frazier, entering his age 36 season, debuted with the Angels in 2013 at the age of 25, and did not play another game in the majors until 2018, 5 years later, with the Red Sox, and was a mainstay for them there in the bullpen, up until last year, where he was dealt to the Dodgers. And during that time with the Dodgers, can I just say, he was excellent. In 39 appearances, he pitched 38.2 innings, only gave up 3 earned runs, 1 home run, struck out 38 batters. You add all that stuff up, I mean, mainly the runs. His ERA, 0.7. with the Dodgers, really turned around his season, because with the Red Sox that year was looking awful. In 20 games, he pitched 21 innings, gave up 17 earned runs for an ERA of 7.29. So he went from 7.29 with the Red Sox in 20 games to a 0.7 ERA with the Dodgers in 39 games, totaling his ERA that year to a 3.02. Very impressive stuff for Ryan Brazier. A hard-fought deal for sure. Deserves the money, because that second half of his season, was it nasty with the Dodgers. So good for him. Moving on, the Mets. The Mets. They just signed all the relief pitchers. How many have they signed? Jorge Lopez. They traded for a couple guys here and there. Minaya. Starter, obviously, Ottavino last week, I believe. They're signing 2 more guys. Shintaro Fujinami signs a $3.35 million deal, 1 year. And then Jake Diekman. I was not able to find how much he signed with the Mets, but I did find out that he does have a club option, or the Mets have a club option on Jake Diekman. He is signing a 1-year deal, possibly a 2-year deal. We'll look at Diekman first, because he has had a much longer career, and I mean much longer. Diekman has jumped around from team to team ever since debuting in 2012 at the age of 25, where he was a Philly, then a Texas Ranger, then an Arizona Diamondback, then a Royal, then an Oakland A, then a Boston Red Sox, then a Chicago White Sox. And then last year he was traded from the White Sox to the Rays. He's played on quite a few teams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams to be exact. And the Mets will be his 9th. And last year, when he finished off his time with the Rays specifically, kind of the same thing as Brazier, had a complete turnaround. Beginning of 2023 with the White Sox, had a 7.94 ERA in 13 games. And then after being traded to the Rays, in 50 games, pitched to a 2.18 ERA. So very strong stuff. Pitched 45 innings, 53 strikeouts, 11 earned runs. Definitely turned his season around. The veteran lefty, he's been doing it for a long time. A career 4 WAR, 25 and 31, with a 3.82 ERA in his what was 12-year career. And now will be year number 13 with the Mets at his age 37 season. And he joins an elite bullpen, which will have Edwin Diaz, Ottavino, as well as Fujinami, who I assume will also be in the bullpen. Last year, obviously his first year in the majors, came over from I believe it was the NBP, so the Japanese League. He had some struggling numbers with Oakland. Obviously, that makes sense because Oakland was a bad team, but he was also not the best pitcher. An 8.57 ERA in 34 games. Big yikes, 7 of which he started. Then I don't know if it was a trade, if it was a waiver and a claim, but he ended up on Baltimore, which is when he kind of got going a little bit. Still not great. Had a 4.85 ERA in 30 games, but much better. All of those 30 games were out of the bullpen, and he was 2-0 with Baltimore. So, already is now going to be second year in his career with the Mets on his third team already, which is not something you kind of want if you are a player. In total, last year, played 64 games, 7 of which he started, and had a 7.18 ERA. So hopefully being with the Mets, being with some of those pitchers there, he'll be able to kind of fix his form, fix what he needs to do to be an effective pitcher there, and, help the Mets out as much as he can, because, for $3.35 million, you would like to get something out of the right-hander. Moving along, the Rays, they finally make a proper signing, and not just a trade. Phil Maton, I believe it's Maton and not Maton. He is signing a deal with the Rays, 1 year, $6.5 million. Started his career with the Padres, spent some time with the Guardians/Indians at the time. In the last 3 years, he's been playing with the Houston Astros, and last year he was 30 years old. And with the Astros, in 58 games, he pitched to a 3 ERA. Had a couple of starts with the Guardians. And by couple, I mean only one with the Guardians in 2021. Most likely used in an opener role. Besides that game, every other game he's played in has been out of the bullpen. He is a good bullpen pitcher. With some higher strikeout numbers. The last 2 years with the Astros, 74 strikeouts, 73 strikeouts. So that's kind of what you're expecting if you are Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay has a knack for, signing a relief pitcher and turning them into a god. So expect Phil Maton to have a very nice year with the Tampa Bay Rays. Moving on, we got 2 other relief pitchers here. Starting off, Kaynon Middleton. He's heading to St. Louis on a 1 year, $6 million deal. He was notable last year because he went from the White Sox to the Yankees during the deadline, and they had a negative fallout afterwards. The White Sox, he released some public information on the team, the clubhouse, which I believe resulted in the trade, and then also kind of like forgetting to put him on a jumbotron. Like, there's a brief memory I have of that for some reason. When you look at the numbers that he had with the Yankees, had a 1.88 ERA in 12 games with them, 14 and a third innings, and 17 strikeouts. You go to include the White Sox numbers in that. So in total, in 51 games that he played last year, pitched to a 3.38 ERA, 64 strikeouts, and 50 and 2/3 innings. Besides those 2 teams, he's also played with the Diamondbacks and the Seattle Mariners, as well as the Angels, which is where he started, debuting in 2017 at the age of 23. Played with them all the way up until COVID, when he was 26, so 4 years there. Now, joining the St. Louis Cardinals, his 6th team, and he will be 30 this year as well. So the Cardinals, you get a bullpen piece that can maybe help you guys out because, again, you guys are a team with an identity that just lost it last year, so now you guys are the favorites again, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, everybody needs pitching. So strong move here for St. Louis. Hopefully Middleton can stay away from some drama and just play some baseball. Last move here, talk about Jose Cisnero. He is still back here. Kind of a crazy career he's had. Not the first guy we're talking about like this. Debuting in 2013 at the age of 24 with the Astros. Spent 2 years there and then had a 5-year gap from baseball before coming back with Detroit in his age 30 season in 2019. Has spent the last 5 years with Detroit and is now signing with the Angels for a 1-year, $1.75 million deal. Last year with Detroit, 5.31 ERA, not great. Pitched to a 3-4 win-loss record. In 63 games, had 59 and a third innings, 70 strikeouts, but 35 earned runs, 10 home runs. Not great. Has never started a game, so essentially the Angels are getting a relief pitcher through in and throughout, entering his age 35 season, his 8th year in the big leagues. Not much more to say about that. So Jose Cisnero, congrats on your deal. Those are some pitchers, mainly relief pitchers, if not all relief pitchers, that signed this past week. Okay, we've got one last signing to look over and then two last bits of news here. The Minnesota Twins are making an addition for a veteran, Carlos Santana, a 1-year, $5.25 million deal. Carlos Santana has been in the league for a long time now, going way back to 2010 with the Cleveland Indians, and spent most of his time in his career with Cleveland, where he's only been an MVP once in 2019 at his age 33 season. That was, of course, the season he came back to Cleveland after spending a poor 2018 with the Phillies. Carlos Santana, kind of one of those guys who's just been underrated. Like I said, only one All-Star in his now going to be 15-year career. In the last couple of years, he has done some team hopping, though. After leaving Cleveland in 2020 after the COVID season, he's jumped from the Kansas City Royals to the Seattle Mariners to the Pirates to the Brewers. So last couple of years, he's been on 4 or 5 different teams, and now is adding the Twins to it for his 15th year in the big leagues. And like I said, this guy's had quite the career. Ended his 2023 season by getting over the 300 home run mark. He has 301 career home runs and has a lot of nice numbers to show for his great career. Last year specifically, though, he was with the Pirates at the start, moved on over to the Brewers at the deadline. In total, played 146 games, 37 years old, still playing nearly every single game of the season. Good for him. 132 hits, had a nice 23 home runs there, 86 ribbies. Struck out 104 times and walked 65 times, so he still has a nice high. OPS 747, so about league average there. And now going to be 38, playing with the Twins, kind of giving flashbacks a couple of years ago when Nelson Cruz, in his, high 30 age years, was playing with the Twins. Hopefully Carlos Santana has a little bit in the juice left. Obviously he does, he's always been a clutch hitter as well, has a couple of nice walk-offs in his career. And to be honest, it's more that veteran presence. I can understand why the Twins want that. They have a couple of young kids there, guys like Royce Lewis, Eduardo Julien, amongst some others. They really do need that leader aspect. And there's not many better leaders in the game right now than Carlos Santana. Most likely will be doing some DHing, possibly playing some first base as well as defense. Definitely not like what it used to be, but it's still, not awful. He's not going to be making every error imaginable. So, if the Twins, like I said, they're kind of stalling, but this is something, to help them out. I think the Twins have an easy shot at this division here, but we will have to wait and see. All right, now last thing to briefly mention that came out, I believe, earlier today, if not, or earlier yesterday. The Boston Red Sox and Netflix are pairing up for a couple of projects. The first, they're doing a deep dive on their 2004 World Series historic run that brought the championships to Boston for the first time in a long time. And they're also putting out a little documentary series about the 2024 season. So they're going to have a crew with them throughout the year this year. That will debut next year in 2025. I love those kinds of shows. I love when we get to see kind of the behind the scenes of sports. I'm grateful enough to be a Miami Dolphins fan, and they had their Hard Knocks this season for the NFL. And, we got to see team meetings and coverages, the way, coaches talk to players and how they get through, the problems that arise throughout the season. I love that kind of stuff, and me being a huge fan of baseball, I will love this. I'm going to enjoy watching this series when it comes out next year, seeing how they handle different team aspects, how they, how certain players train, prepare for games, that kind of deep dive stuff. Huge fan of it, so I'm very excited for that part, as well as, of course, the 2004 historic World Series run as well. So those two projects being worked on and will be debuting on Netflix in the next year. So cool stuff there for Boston fans and really for baseball fans. It's always great when you get that look behind the scenes. That is going to do it for today's episode. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. Like I said, less than 2 weeks before some spring training baseball. And less than 50 days away from opening day. That is March 28th. Of course, we do have the Seoul series as well. 2 regular season games between the Dodgers and Padres a week before actual opening day. So we're going to have some baseball stuff really soon. Like I said, I've got some stuff going on here before the regular season starts. We'll have some spring training coverage. We're going to have our team look-ins for the 2024 season, as well as a prediction episode for awards, division winners, everything you want. So I'm excited for that. Hope you guys are too. And stay tuned for all of that stuff in the next coming month. I appreciate you all. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. And I will see you guys next time.